direct from the web, it's Billy Masters Live. And now, please welcome your host, Billy Masters.
Oh my God, we're here, another show. Hey everybody, welcome to Billy Masters Live. I am your host, Billy Masters. Today is, oh my God, they're right on top of things. Thank you guys. Today is Thursday, November 5th. Oh my God. November 5th, 2020. And for those of you keeping track, we still don't have a president. Who knows when we will? Oh, it's a mess. But you know, if you did your civic duty, if you voted, look at this. I voted, got a collection. If you voted, then you know, good. If you didn't vote, the fuck's wrong with you? For God's sakes. All right. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not telling people who to vote for. I'm just saying, what's wrong with you? Anyway, I have such exciting news to tell you. First off, if you're watching this on YouTube, do me a favor. Go to the bottom of the screen. I don't know where it is. I think it's over here somewhere. Might be over there somewhere. I'm not sure. But on YouTube, click on the button that says subscribe, because all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, suddenly all these people are subscribing. And I think it was, you know, our two shows have just skyrocketed. They've gone viral. The Lena Kazan Michelle Lee show, where we talk about Seesaw and their friendship and everything, it is now the most popular show we've ever done. So God only knows. God love you people for watching it. It just took off like crazy. Also, I did a special show on Tuesday on Election Day. So that show, I put it up Tuesday night just because everyone was sitting home watching the returns and getting crazy. And I said, you know, let's give some people something else to watch and just something to laugh about. It's a really funny show. Go back and watch it. And there were like hundreds of you tuned in to watch it. I guess you just needed a break from the election. So subscribe, you know, whichever side it's on. This side, I don't know. You know, choose a finger, any finger. Next week, we will finally have, God willing, fingers crossed, Ed Asner. We're pre-taping, and I know I say Billy Masters Live. If we're here, we're live. Well, we won't be live, but I'll probably do a wraparound. I will probably be live, but we are pre-taping Ed Asner to make sure that there aren't any technical problems. Also, we have Eric Roberts is coming up. Melissa Manchester is coming up. We have so many great people coming up. Cheryl Lee Ralph is coming back doing because she's doing a virtual Diva Simply Singing, and we will be discussing that. Who else is coming back? Darlene Love is going to be back before Christmas, maybe singing. We're kind of working out the technical issues. Jennifer Lewis is coming back. We just got so many great people. I think Fran Drescher is coming back as well, though that might be after the first of the year. So anyway, now normally I like to start with an anecdote from the past. And, you know, I was watching, you know, I really should look up. Here is a new series on TV, and it's really not new. I think they're in their second season, I think. There's a series that's based on The Right Stuff, which, you know, was a book, was a movie, you know, whatever, about the astronauts. And it's really good. So if you're looking for something to watch, I really would recommend it. I'm looking up right now. Where the hell is it? It's on, I know you're all sitting here saying, you know where it's on. Disney Plus. Oh, God. I don't even have Disney Plus. And yet I was watching it. You figure that out. Anyway, so watch it. It's a really interesting show. It's very well done, well cast, well shot. It actually looks like a movie. They really put money into it. But anyway, I was watching it and thinking to myself, I have met Buzz Aldrin. I don't know why, but I have. Here's a photo of us. Look at us. First off, he's got like the Iron Cross on, like, you know, he was in a war or something. But There's Buzz and I. It's a small resolution. Sorry, it's the best picture. And I think we were at a party, and I'm not quite sure he knew why he was posing with me or, in fact, who I was. But nonetheless, I have a photo with somebody who's been to a different, well, I don't want to say planet. The moon isn't a planet, but been to outer space. And more importantly, Buzz Aldrin can say that he has met Billy Masters. But anyway, we are not here to talk about Billy Masters. Although, really, when are we not? I was really excited. A good friend of mine, Adam Weinstock, is a producer, and he's involved in a benefit which is celebrating a few things. Number one, it's raising money for the Emerging Artists Theater, which is a great theater. And in these days of pandemic, endless pandemic, we are trying to do what we can to raise money for our performing arts organizations. But he is also celebrating the 20th anniversary of the play. It's a series of monologues called Boys Don't Wear Lipstick, which it's, I guess, is it 20 years? I should really look at my own press, but I believe it's 20 years. And it seems to me that, 20th anniversary. Look at that. 20th anniversary. It doesn't seem like that long ago. That's because I've been around. And so they've got this all-star cast doing different readings from the collection. People like Margaret Cho, Daphne Rubin Vega, Jonny Beauchamp, who's here today, Lena Hall, Tony Winner is here today. So I was really thrilled first that they got such a great collection of people together, and also that they are really putting a spotlight on this great series of monologues. And so I was thrilled to be able to talk about it and talk to the creative people involved. So we have the playwright, Brian Belovitch. Belovitch. No, am I saying it right? Brian will correct me. And Everett Quinton are here. He directed it. But I'm going to start. Yes, it might be Belovitch. It might be Belovitch. He will tell me. Let's ask him right now. Brian is it Belovitch?
It's Belovitch. You did it right.
Belovitch. All right, I got it right. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Is it a Russian name?
It is Russian. Yes, it's Russian. My grandparents were from the Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
And they immigrated to Riga, Latvia, and then hopped on a boat over here.
Wait, is it on both sides of your family?
On my father's side, my mom was Portuguese.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Fall River.
River. I'm in Boston right now.
We have that Massachusetts connection.
Exactly. Yeah, I met my parents. Normally I live in LA, but I met my parents in Medford. So there you go.
No, Medford.
Medford. Right,
Medford.
Exactly. Me and Maria Menounos. And Jingle Bells was written here. Allegedly, there's some problems. Yeah. So anyway, first off, thank you for being on the show. I can't believe it's only been 20 years.
I don't know where the time has gone. It's
shocking to me.
It really is shocking.
It seems like actually this pandemic started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but these monologues are all autobiographical, right? Or at least primarily autobiographical. And you have the most interesting story. So I want to actually talk about you before we talk about the play. Tell me your story.
My story?
Yes, because I think you have a fascinating story.
Yeah. I have kind of unusual story, which I actually wrote. I don't know if I actually wrote a memoir a couple of years ago called Transfigured. Detail.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The whole my whole journey through gender identity. And the short version is that I grew up in the 60s and 70s as a little effeminate gay boy in Fall River, Massachusetts, and then we moved to Providence, Rhode Island. And
people should know that's a working class background.
Yes, barely working class. Yeah. And big family of, macho boys, and one of seven. And from a very early age, I was always being mistaken as a girl, misgendered. And then, when I was old enough to act on it, I did. And very early on, I started to transition to female. And
Mm-hmm.
I lived as a transgender woman for almost 15 years. And during that time, this was in the 70s and 80s, when, things aren't quite as accepting as they are today.
And where were you living at this point?
Well, I was living in a few places. I moved around quite a bit, mostly in New York, but I lived in Rhode Island. At some point, I married a soldier and
Wow.
moved to Germany, and was an Army wife on the U.S. Army base over there in Schweinfurt,
And did
Germany.
anybody there, did they know that you had been a boy, or were they just accepting you as a female?
I had what the kids call today passing privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, passing privilege. So in those days, it was safer to be stealth, sort of be undercover
Sure.
and on the DL. And so I was very young when I started out, and I wish I had some pictures to show you. I don't have any, but there are lots of.
Well, but I do have the picture of your book, which is the Transfigured book.
Yeah, that's
so we do have that photo.
Yes, that's the book. And so I had, very few people knew my story. And then
did your husband have any issues with this?
Well, everyone has their own issues. I'm sure he had his issues with it. But he was very accepting and loved me, and obviously wanted the best for me. And we had a pretty tempestuous relationship, because it's been said I have a big personality, which, I don't know where they get that from, but he had his issues with it, and eventually we broke up. And
How long were you together?
We were together 5 years, and I came
stretch.
back to New York and restarted my show business career as an actor and singer. And I gained some notoriety in the 80s as sort of this, girl with something extra, the bombshell of rock and roll at all the clubs, the high the Danceteria and Limelight and, Palladium.
Oh, you were part of that in crowd. I mean, there was the club kids.
That detail set, yes.
Yeah.
Celebutants, running to party after party every night, every different outfit, different.
And is this a photo of you in that era?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There she is.
There she is. And that's something extra.
Yes.
And I would say that if I saw you particularly at a club, I would think that you were just some club girl, crazy club girl.
Yeah. They used to get mad at my friend Taboo. Taboo?
I know Taboo. Yep.
With Stephen Tashin. When I started going to the Pyramid, they were talking about me as this girl who was pretending to be a drag queen. They didn't know that I was trans, and they were like, "Who is this girl, and why is she pretending to be a drag queen?" It was kind of...
See, but again, I think back then you were either a boy or a girl or a drag queen. I don't think they really understood anything else. There's also another one right there. That's you as well.
Yes, A, B, or C.
Yeah, right. And I think that and it's funny, they were so, I'm a little younger than you, but I was around the clubs during the, late 80s, 90s. And I remember that people were very accepting, but they were very accepting within very narrow parameters. Yeah. There was not fluidity. There wasn't really, because if you were a drag queen and you were out not in drag, there was also a lot of discrimination against that. Why aren't you in drag? We know you as a drag queen.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There was a very narrow sort of, acceptance, and God forbid you should step outside of that,
Exactly.
Area that they had you pegged in.
But you were also a performance artist.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Did you want to be a performer?
well,
What did you want?
I always wanted to be an actor.
Really?
I joined the drama club. You know, I graduated from the Betty Davis School of Drama. You know, I was a kid that was, you know, hooked on movies and, you know, spent a lot of time watching old movies and you know, bought my cast albums when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I was already out, you know, blasting them on the porch in my neighborhood, and people didn't understand, what is that kid listening to? You know, like Jesus Christ Superstar and Dreamgirls. Well, Dreamgirls was later, but you know, stuff like that. So I always wanted to be an actor, and pursued that, you know, I think as best as I could have.
Were you writing your own material at that point?
I only started to write my own material when I retransitioned back to my gender.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because you had such an interesting trajectory. Did you have surgery to become a female?
I had top surgery.
Okay.
So I had breasts, and I took hormones for many, many years. I had breast implants.
And you lived as a woman?
I lived as a woman
24/7.
24/7, you know, that's what they called it back then.
Right. Right.
And, you know, and I was trying to do the best I could. I mean, Billy, there wasn't anything that I didn't really try to do that.
It sounds like it.
I mean, and it was a time when it was very prohibitive for trans women to do anything other than sex work.
And there was also no discussion. I mean, you would never find, you could turn on CNN and have this discussion. You didn't even hear it in the underground. I mean, barely in The Voice even.
No, nowhere. No.
Right.
No LGBTQ center, no, you know, support groups, no, you know, so.
Well, T wasn't even talked about. It was really lesbians and gays. We had trouble bringing a bi, let alone anything else. So the idea of transgender, and again, back then, a lot of, because I knew trans girls, because I worked in the clubs, who were called trannies, who were really, again, hookers, or club workers. They would do shows. A lot of them did shows because that's the only place they could work, or they waitressed in those clubs. It was very limited. It was very scary.
Yeah, and you couldn't get work. I mean, I mean, if you did get, I mean, I did work. I mean, I
like regular jobs.
I had regular jobs. I worked in a women's clothing chain in Connecticut.
Wow.
I worked
in Connecticut.
And in the little town of Meriden, Connecticut, where the
I know Meriden. Yeah.
I was there waiting for my husband to come back from Germany. So I had got this little gig in a clothing store, but I was so undercover, like people hardly ever knew that I was not, you know.
Well, if you were living, presenting yourself and believing you were female, why would it come up?
Right. Exactly. Well,
and also, I think people don't understand is that not only were people uneducated, they were scared of, if you heard about somebody being transgender or having any surgery, that was scary because you didn't know what that meant. Yeah. And there was also a lot of disinformation that they were pedophiles, that they were killers. You know, you had Dress to Kill, you had Silence of the Lambs. The only time you saw people who were trans, they were degenerates of some kind.
Yeah, and that was even later on. I mean, that was like, you know,
that's true, right?
80s or 90s, but still that's perpetuating that stereotype.
What was the year that you started?
I moved to New York when I was 18, so that was 1974. And
wow, that is so early.
So and 2 years prior to that, I'd already started dressing in drag and taking hormone pills and toying with the idea of fully transitioning. And
how were you able to get even like pills and get treatment? Were you able to find a doctor, or was it black market kind of situation?
I found a doctor. I found a doctor that gave me the pills, prescription for Premarin.
Did your family accept any of it? Did you have relationships with them during this time?
No. no. It was like you said, it scared them.
You could swear, it's fine. It's cable.
Okay, it scared the so, they weren't dumb people, but they were not sophisticated at all in matters of, gender or, sexuality. I mean, they were very homophobic, and, I was kicked out of my house.
Really? At what age?
The great monologue that Jonny does in the play is
I love that monologue.
It's just so beautiful. He does such a beautiful job with that.
Yes.
Actually happened. That was a real a real thing that happened, and I was always being kicked out of the house. I
assume that most of it came from your experience. How much artistic liberty do you take with the monologues?
Very little. I think maybe I would say it's 95% accurate. Of course, embellish and change things for
make it
yeah, make it more funnier than it was, or sadder than it was, or
Were you able to see the humor at the time? Because in the monologues, they're so witty, and I always find that people who have a good sense of humor can get through almost anything, but sometimes it does take time before you realize how absurd what you're living through actually is.
I've always thought that my life was absurd. So and I always have had thank God, a great sense of humor. I think that's one of the things that really got me through a lot of the difficult times that I went through, was my sense of humor. And I'm so glad you enjoyed that part of the
Oh, and what I also loved, I know we're jumping around, but I also loved, it shows different aspects of the life. There's the coming out, there's dating men, there's how you tell people, which I always think that there is something about gay people and trans people that is different than any sort of minority group. That if you're Black, I look at you, you're Black. But if you're gay, you constantly have to come out. If you're trans, you constantly have to come out. It gets easier, it gets better, but each time you have to live through this angst. And the way you cover it, sometimes with humor, sometimes with pathos, sometimes mixing the two. I just think it's so brilliant. And it seems to me it's almost like a Groundhog Day, that now I got to go through this all over again.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that, because, at the time I tried to find, I was trying to think of other plays that had been written that featured a fully realized transgender character that made it to off-Broadway. I mean, there's probably been a lot of off-Broadway stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
There are very few fully realized. I think my play was one of the first. When we did it back then, that actually, like you said, you really get the sense of this is a real look at someone's life in a way that you would have never really had the chance to, just by talking to someone.
Right.
I really was, it was really important to me to put that aspect into the play. And it took 10 years from then, 2000 to 2010, before we even had a trans actor on the cover of Time magazine.
Isn't that extraordinary?
It was 10 more years before Laverne Cox, who I adore, was finally on the cover of Time magazine. And people were finally coming around to this idea that, oh, well, maybe trans people can act. And, we've been acting our whole lives, but yet, it took decades for us to come to the kind of acceptance that we have today, which still needs a lot of work. But
yeah, let me ask you, since you bring that up, especially the past couple of years, there's been a lot of discussion about trans actors wanting to claim the right to play trans roles, and that they should be the only people who play those roles. the counter argument would be that does that mean a trans actor cannot play a cisgender role? Because if trans can only play trans, then cis should only play cis. Where do you come down on that? Do you mind non-trans people playing your roles?
I don't mind. In fact, this cast is completely gender non-conforming. We have the brilliant trans actor Peppermint.
We've had on here. She's so fabulous.
She was just fantastic and a lovely, oh my God, just a lovely person. And we have cis women, we have
Lena,
cis men, we have gender non-conforming folks, we have cisgender gay men, we have drag queens, we have a whole spectrum of identity and cultural diversity covered. And actually, I'm glad you asked me about this, and I'll get back to your point in a second. But
okay,
we did this in 2015, and it was just kind of like I had this idea for the 15th anniversary. I said, well, what if somebody else did this instead of me? I'm too old to do it anyway. So I thought, well, what if I broke it up and I got all these different people from all different walks of life playing the same character? And when I sat in the back row and I watched the play and it was sold out, we didn't have a seat left, and we made great money for Dixon Place. And when I got to sit back and see this happen, I thought, wow, that's really so much more powerful than just one person. You have all of these collective identities, different colors, different genders, different,
walks of life completely.
And they all are chasing the same goal. So all trying to find comfort in the world and trying to,
which gives it a universality.
It was so wonderful. So when I got the chance to do this again, I thought, well, let's do it. But this idea about, I played cis women when I was trans in New York City, and I also was part of a theater company in Washington State when I was stationed out there with my husband, my ex-husband at the time. And I was a part of a repertory theater company. Again, no one knew. I had one confidant, no one knew, and I played only cis gender roles.
Well, it's funny you bring up that for the 15th anniversary, because we had David Drake on a few months ago, and we talked about that for the 20th of The Night Larry Kramer Kissed Me was the first time he broke it up and had Black, white, Asian, every sort of type of man playing it. And he had said to me that it actually showed him that it was bigger than himself.
Yes,
which I think is very important.
Yes, that's the thing that I really was so shocked by. Like, wow, this is really, really impactful that way. I never really
had you seen other people playing it before?
No.
Oh, really?
No, it was my
so. Not only had you not seen somebody else doing it, you'd never seen a variety of people.
No, and I directed it too. So it was
really, wow.
Yeah. So it was really, really something special. And Adam and I were sitting outside in, July in the pandemic, having a barbecue over here. I'm in Long Island these days, and talking. And I said, I did this thing back in 2015, and like maybe it's the 20th anniversary, maybe we can do a benefit for somebody. He's like, oh, well, I have a theater company and I'm on the board, and I can, so we did that. And but this idea about casting, so as someone who wanted desperately to be included in that world of theater and and television, and I was like banging I would go to auditions as a trans woman, and they would look at me like, what is she doing here? Like, does she really think that she's going to play a role in this Broadway show? And even though I could sing, it was, they would say, sometimes I would get spooked, which is, people finding out who you are, and they would be like, is that a guy? is that a guy? You know, I could hear them. Is that a guy? You know, so there was a lot of discrimination, a lot of rejection around trying to just fulfill my dream. And
Did anybody cast you? I mean, were you taken seriously for anything notable, or was it always the underground that supported you?
oh yeah, before I went into the whole nightclub scene, I had done quite a bunch of legitimate. I did, you know, I was Lucy in Charlie Brown.
Oh, wow.
In a summer theater in Connecticut. No one, you know.
You really did prove yourself that if they didn't have an idea in their head of what you were, you could play any character.
Yeah, yeah. And I did a whole bunch of summer theater. I did legitimate, I did stage play. I did a shadow box. I did
Oh, wow.
Laundry and Bourbon. I did some original plays at the 13th Street Repertory Company in Greenwich Village. I was a part of that theater for many years with Edith.
But once you came out and had that label of being transgender, then that's all you could do.
That's all that's all people
would consider you for doing.
Could see me as. And the idea that they would cast me in something, we just weren't there yet in 1980, 85, 86. We weren't there. And we didn't get there for another 20 years.
Right. And you know, many would argue we're not completely there yet either.
Quite there yet. But I do just respond to that one. I do feel like you can't have it both ways. You have to, you know, I would be remiss in saying that, you know, I would only want such and such a person to play such a role. I mean, I don't think that I want to be that limited in my thinking about acting. I think acting, it's important to have trans roles and important for trans people to play those roles. Just as important it is for as a gay man now. I can't tell you about this project that I did, but I just did a little bit part on a project where there's a cis straight male playing a gay character. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I'm on the set, I'm thinking to myself, why is he playing that character? There's so many other like talented gay actors that would be
great in that role.
Great and better in the role. And then I started thinking, you know, well, I understand the argument why.
I agree. And I think it's for representation. I think if there were more representation, it would be less of an issue. But as you said, if you said only gay actors could play gay roles, then, as you said, conversely, that would mean only straight actors can play straight roles. And I wouldn't want anyone to be limited.
I don't think, I think we have to move ahead in our thinking about this somehow. I'm not sure how, but
well, it's baby steps. But before I bring Everett on, I want to ask you, so what made you transition back and start living as a male?
Oh my God, that's such a long story, but
I know, I'm sorry.
Read the book. Hold the book up again.
Hold on, wait, I got the book here. Hold on, there it there it is. Book. How long have you been back as a male that you've considered yourself male?
Almost 34 years now.
Wow. So it's been a journey.
Yes. Much more.
Are you happy?
Very happy.
Are you happier as a male because you lived as a woman?
Well, I think that I am so lucky to have walked in another pair of pumps.
Yeah.
You know, I have experienced life in not just a fleeting way, like just getting dressed up and maybe spending the day, but I really experienced life as a woman in a way that most people would never imagine, like someone could. So I'm so grateful for those experiences, you know, and that perspective and and how I was treated by men and other women and gay men and lesbian women and other trans women. Fascinating how the misogyny alone. I mean, I was very sexy and big busted. I was kind of like a, brunette.
Hello.
Brunette Dolly Parton. So, men were constantly, objectifying me and treating me like I hadn't have a brain between my cleavage, so that was challenging as a trans person and as someone presenting as a woman. Mm-hmm. So, but I do feel very blessed to have had this sort of dual, life in many ways. But what happened was I have, I'm a recovering person in recovery. I've been recovering now from substance use for many, many years. And I was in therapy and I was very upset and very unhappy and depressed. And, I took a deep dive into looking at like why I did all the things that I did in the first place. And like you mentioned earlier, when you're from a certain generation, you see things a lot differently. Right. Like I felt like I had this overwhelming desire that I needed to fit in. And I felt so bad about myself that I almost did whatever anybody else thought I should do. Really? Which was never a good idea.
No.
And it got me into a lot of fun. But at the same time, in the end, it nearly killed me, really, Billy.
Well, it's a tough life. It really is. It sounds like you lived through it all.
It really did almost kill me. So,
but it also made you stronger.
Made me stronger, and I have I have quite, like I said, I have like just amazing perspective that not very many people get to experience. So I'm grateful for all of that, all of those experiences.
I want to bring in Everett Quinton because he was the director of this benefit. Let me bring him in. Hold on. Hey, Everett, welcome to the show.
Hi, Billy. Hi, Brian.
Everett, tell me about you getting involved with this production. How familiar with the material were you?
Well, I saw the original.
Wow.
I've known Tish. I met Tish in 80-something, and then I went to visit Tish in the hospital when she was becoming Brian. So I know these people. And then I saw the original production, which was beautiful. And then on Bleecker Street, right? Not on McDougal Street. And then I came out of the blue, and I got a call one day from Adam Weinstock to do this. And it was so far it's been lovely. We're going to look at the edited piece tonight. So.
Yeah, I've seen the individual monologues as well. And it's interesting if you look at each piece individually as a little mini play, which when you see it theatrically, it's like a totality. But if you take each piece as a little play, they're little masterpieces and they all have very different tones.
Exactly. And they take us on a different journey. They take us different aspects of the personality, and to see these different aspects done by different people is very beautiful. I'm so thrilled with it. I'm so happy.
It's funny. Brian had mentioned that having it done by different people really amplifies the universality of it, but it also shows the diversity of it. In terms of casting it, how hard was it to find the right piece for the right performer? Because Margaret Cho was so perfect in hers, but I thought to myself, I wonder if she had done Daphne's or if she had done Johnny's, how would I have felt?
I had no say in the casting. It came to me already cast. So,
it did. Okay.
So but again, when you talk about the universality of it, because it was Lena who questioned that she was a cis woman and not trans, and then it is a universal story, and the issues here are true to everyone in the world. It may be heightened if you're in a state of fear and hiding and stuff, but the issues are the same. It's courage and fear and persistence. And I think those are the universals that drive the play. So,
did you find that any of it seemed dated? Because I kept looking for things that I said, oh, you can tell this is 20 years old, and I didn't find anything.
no, that's a lovely thing about writing, but it's also, you were talking about before, we're in a new era. We were in a new, because I remember years ago reading the book Emergence. Do you remember that book? It's the first female to male transitioner, and I was a kid when I was reading this, and how she was alone, or then he was alone, and then the terrifying journey that he went on afterwards. And
right.
So then who do we grow up with? Christine Jorgensen, and he was
Renee Richards and all that stuff.
But even before Renee Richards had a bit of cachet. I mean, she was accepted, and she fought. I guess she's the beginning of the era of fighting for your rights. But like Christine Jorgensen, we just thought of her as a joke until later. We didn't like. I later played Madame Rosepetal in what is that? Oh God, and Christine Jorgensen played that, and I was like so happy that I was in a role that Christine Jorgensen, she didn't originate, but she had played it, and it was a major role in it, and so that to see where we've come.
When I was 14, I took the book out of the library.
Oh, really?
Her autobiography, her memoir. And I had to hide it at home and read it.
See, some people had porn under their bed. So you had that.
Right. And we were hiding, and now we don't hide. And then, but a whole new generation is coming up, and a whole new generation of people that are brave and defining themselves. And so the play speaks to them. It's not, I mean, I guess 20 years ago, if you saw it 20 years ago, the costumes were dated, but that's about the only thing.
You know, it's interesting, Brian, something that Everett just said, that back then you really did not have any role models. I mean, it was completely uncharted territory. And today, I mean, even 20 years ago, I suppose, because you came out, you know, you're saying in the 70s. In the 90s, at least we heard of people anecdotally, but in the 70s, what did you have? That must have been, I mean, the idea of you actually even saying, I'm going to find a doctor, I'm going to go on hormones, I'm going to have top surgery. Where does that come from? How do you even research that?
But even drag queens were so horribly discriminated against in the gay community. We were looked down on. It was
marginalized.
Not even marginalized. There was absolute cruelty sometimes.
Yeah.
And it was
well. We're gonna when we talk to Jonny. I mean, I saw him in Stonewall, which was so powerful. But again, remembering that drag queens and trans people were at the forefront, and I always think that they you know, the drag and trans communities get short shrift because they are used as a joke or a punchline or a visual, when in fact they are the ones usually fighting first because they are already ready to fight. Well, they have to be.
I've met more than one person who told me they threw the shoe.
Oh yeah, no. If I hear about the shoe again, yeah, I know.
I know, but I've met
it was everybody's shoe.
I want to write a play about all the different people that threw the shoe.
That would be great. Do a series of monologues from each person's point of view.
I threw the shoe.
It was my
shoe. It was a.
All right, we're going to work on this, people. Now, I don't know, Lena Hall, are you backstage? Lena, your camera's off if you're backstage. Oh, there she is. Okay. We're talking about this, and you've brought up several times Lena Hall. Lena Hall, of course, Tony Award winner for Hedwig, where she played, well, you know, first off, Lena Hall can do anything. I don't know if there's any point in even discussing what she does, because she can play anything, anyone. I would watch Lena Hall do the Rosa Parks story if anybody asked her to. So here she is, Miss Lena Hall.
Oh, no one wants that. Hi, everybody. How
Hey,
are
sweetie,
you?
how are you?
Very good, very
Good to
good.
see you again.
You too.
I watched, yours was the first one I went to. I got a collection of these monologues, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder which one they're going to give Lena. And there's something powerful about all of them, but yours in particular, because of the camera angle, these are self tapes. I felt like you were talking to me, that you were across this table from me in a restaurant having this conversation with me. It felt so personal. It felt so directed to me. I felt horrible at the end of it, because I really felt, I'm sorry, Lena, I didn't mean to. And I think that is what great acting is it is that personal, and that it really transcends medium. I felt like I was on a Skype call with you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting medium that we have to perform in now. And I've been performing in this medium since the end of May now, because that was the first show I did virtually on Zoom. Like, it wasn't on Zoom, but it was like a virtual show. And
Are
it
you
was
still doing them every week or two? I mean, you're really
I had to take November off because I have many things that I need to catch up on, because these
Right.
virtually live shows started taking over my life.
They're exhausting.
Well, I mean, it's also because, I learn 12 songs that I don't know for every show.
And you're
That's
taking
every week.
requests, and you're preparing.
It's all only requests, and people,
Easy.
they're requesting things I don't know. So it's like, I have to learn all these new songs. But, working in the medium is really interesting, because at this point, I've gotten so used to performing for an empty room and imagining my audience. While on Zoom, it's really cool because you can see people.
Yeah.
What I love about Zoom specifically is because everyone feels like you're talking to them personally, no matter what. And I think that's something very different and interesting about this space, even though it's separate, and it is, nothing will ever compare to live theater.
Right.
But
I think that it kept you in good stead in terms of doing these self-tape things, because as I was watching all of them, I said, oh, you can really tell who has gotten used to this medium, because it is uncharted territory. And if somebody can excel at it, that is a technical skill. That's really fantastic.
Yeah. It
doesn't hurt that you're a great actress, but you're the girl with something extra, frankly.
Well, thank you. But doing a monologue like this, I had some questions, and I was a little bit hesitant because because of where we are right now, the turmoil in our business, there's not a lot of opportunity for trans people to work, because there's not a lot of trans characters, and there's also not a lot of acceptance for that person coming in to play, so it's not a level playing field. So I was a little not skeptical, sorry. I was a little I was very hesitant to I was apprehensive.
Yeah, I think Everett had brought that up. Everett, was it you that mentioned that Lena was a little bit
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've got him muted. Hold on a second. Come on, you're back.
I'm muted. Yes. Hi, Lena. How are you? Exactly. Yes, she was concerned about it. But again, there's the cast is full of all different people. So it's not, no one's being excluded. If we were doing a one-person show, then I would probably go with a trans person. But when it's such a lovely cast, and it's a big festival, it's a big celebration. So anyone who is what there's a story in the New Testament about some prophet is saying the same thing Jesus is saying, and the apostles want to shut him up, and Jesus says, well, sweetie, he's saying the same thing, so
Yeah.
let him in. He loves us. So if you're with loved ones, it's not, there's no issue there. If the, again, like I said, if it was a one-person show, it would be inappropriate to go without a trans person. But it's a festival setting, kind of, to raise money for these good
For a great theater company.
For a great theater company, and for Callan Lord is the other recipient of whatever money we make. And so to bring the whole community together for this, and as I was saying, there are universals in this that transcend.
Yeah, did you feel that, Lena, when you were looking at the source material, like, I can identify with this?
Yeah, for sure. Because the human experience is the human experience. It doesn't matter what you are or who you love or how you identify. We all go through the same emotional experiences: love, loss of love, wanting to nurture, wanting to be nurtured, wanting to heal others or be healed by someone. We are all searching for pretty much the same thing, which is why in each story, it doesn't matter who tells the story. You don't even need to move the pronouns around or anything. It's literally like, oh yeah, I've been here before. I've been in a situation where I've, like, revealed so much to someone just for them to turn around and tell me that they don't want me, and it's like, well, why am I wasting my time? And it's hurtful. And I think, heartbreak, love is so universal.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with Hedwig. I mean, Hedwig should not be popular. Like, if you really think about the storyline, it is out there and wild.
It is.
And
is it the writing? Is it the brilliance of the writing that makes it universal? That it, in Hedwig's case, or in this case, that the writing transcends the gender or the person, that it's just universal, that it could be anyone. That's what great writing is.
Yes, yeah, I think it's great writing, but and the great writing is the message that's behind the whole thing, and the message is very universal. We're looking for love, and a lot of us are looking for love outside of ourselves and think that someone else is going to fix all our problems, be our better half, all that kind of stuff. When in fact, you have to look inside and you have to love yourself, or become someone that you're going to love and change that way. It's the only way it's the only way you are going to find love from someone else, is you have to love yourself first. And I think that universal message is something people need and look for to hear and understand. And I think the way that, certain plays and certain musicals are written, they have that message, and people respond to that message very heavily. It's a very cathartic message, because we all go through life changes in order to find someone to love, but we don't realize that the key was just to love ourselves, and become who we want to be, right? Who we want to be on the inside. Like, who do you really want to be? And I think, like, copping to that, a lot of people are afraid to be who they want to be because of outside, because of
judgment.
Yeah. A lot of people are afraid what other people are going to think. And I mean, I don't suffer from that, unfortunately.
No, you don't. But I think another reason is because you put yourself out there so often, that breaks that down. Because if you're willing to be judged, you have to at least let that go. If not, you're going to be in therapy every day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I've been putting myself on the line since I was a kid, right? And just, like, being out there because I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be the center of attention. So like anything, I'll just put it all out there and see what comes back. And it's a sense of fearlessness that apparently not a lot of, there's not a lot of people who have that. And so anyone in either the gay community or, the trans community who can come out and fully embrace that and just go for it and be who they are deep down inside, regardless, like that's a fight. And they're hugely strong people and that's a lot of courage to do that. Because a lot of people live under the radar. They don't express who they really are. They don't live how they want to live because of fear of judgment or fear of other people. And like my personal point of view, I don't have any kind of, I guess, a perspective on what it's like to live as a gay man, what it's like to live as a lesbian, what it's like to live trans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a perspective on that because I'm
not that.
I'm not that. Like I'm a cis woman. I'm straight. I play a lot of gay women.
You do? And some trans people.
And yes. And, but that's acting, and acting for me, it all comes from my own personal experience.
Right.
Because again, it's
actually, I see backstage. I see Brian nodding. Everett, I'm going to put you backstage for a minute. I'm going to bring Brian in because Brian is sitting backstage nodding every time you say something. I'm watching him. So it's not that I'm not looking at you, Lena. I'm just looking at Brian. Brian, I assume that from what you were nodding, that this all sort of resonates with you, that everything she is saying is how you feel, that you are everything you did as Tish. You were being judged. You were putting yourself out there, and presumably you did not love yourself. That took time. That was a journey.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that, what Lena is talking about is that, you have a human experience. We're all human, and we have, love, the big campaign for marriage equality. Love is love. I mean, we all respond to circumstances from an emotional level, not from a physical level. Like
right.
I don't respond to something as as a white cis gay male of trans experience than someone else that's something.
That's a very specific niche.
Right.
I'm very niche. My gender presentation. There's not too many of me, but if you go on YouTube, you will find a lot of folks nowadays that are very vocal about retransitioning and detransitioning.
Wow.
A lot of young kids, a lot of mixed ages. I was shocked. I mean, it takes very little a
lot to shock you.
And I was, after about 250 hits, I started counting. I was doing this project for a school that I was working on, and I was like, wow, this is amazing that
this is a thing.
This is in the ethos. It's a conversation. Yeah.
I think, Lena, when you were touring with Hedwig and on Broadway, I know that we had talked before that so many of these people in the trans community would come up to you, that you would hear this feedback and that it would be so emotional for them. This story is even, if it's possible to be a step even further. This story, I can understand why it's somewhat daunting, but when you broke it down to just the words in the monologue, did that make it more accessible for you to sort of take everything else and just respond to the person in that monologue?
Well, no, I mean, Everett, he told me, because I asked, I was like, should I play this as I am trans, and I'm transitioning, to be, he's like, no, just do you, because that's what it is. Just play you. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that makes it much easier. Approached it more on my own personal level, and instead of grappling with, like, the physicality of what what I would assume, you know, a trans woman to be. I just read it as myself, and you know, it made much more sense to me. It did kind of give me a little aha, like, oh, this is a woman. This is a woman, you know, was a man, is a woman, but now doesn't know if that was the right decision, and is grappling with this decision, you know? So that to me would just opened it up. I was like, yes, I can just like relax. There's not anything extra I need to do here. It's different
which is what makes it so honest. And that's what I was telling you I responded to, because there was no acting. There was no artifice. It was like somebody looking at you. And in particular, when people watch this, which they really should, Lena's is close. So look in her eyes.
So
it is heartbreaking, because there is a point where it's so hopeful and so excited. And there's a moment where the hope, like a shade, goes down. and it literally, Lena, I mean, I don't say this often, it made me want to cry. I didn't, but it made me want to. Because I'll be damned if I'll let you make me cry, Lena.
You did such a beautiful job, Lena. Thank you so much. It was so gorgeous. I was verklempt.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God. It was so.
Well, there's somebody who wrote it and played it.
Is it? You are
on the money, like, so, like, you. I don't think you could have done it any better than you did. It was just
single takes. People also understand. They're sitting home. There's no trickery involved. It's just like, here I am, and that's real acting.
It's
not acting. Actually, I take that back. It's being.
It's being. It's different too, because also this is also a different medium than what you would do in a play. In a play, you're on stage. It's a big theater. You're projecting. You're acting for your audience. So physically, it's different. Everything is different. What I've noticed
is getting energy back in an audience.
Yeah, and what I've noticed for, you know, this arena, TV, film, you really just come from yourself, you know,
right.
And that's when it works the most, is when it just comes from yourself. Like, we're just having a conversation, and that, you know, that was that's been a big lesson for me, because I've been on stage since I was 2 years old, you know. So
and now everything is magnified.
Well, it's film in general, film and television. It's a very different.
It's a different medium. Yeah,
and there is that sort of connection that you have to make on a much deeper. I mean, not saying that you have to do that. I mean, you have to do the same on stage, but in this medium, and Zoom and theater and film and television, you have to be careful that you're not too big. You're not too, like, overly dramatic.
You and I talked about this before. It's that when you're doing these, there is that authenticity that either comes through or doesn't, and you can't really fake it here. And I know people have faked it on stage, because there's lots of tricks on stage you can do, and there aren't really tricks here. There was no trickery in watching your monologue. It's there, and either you've got it or I'm going to see right through you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing about this medium, TV, film, it's that there's a total vulnerability that you have to be willing to expose, and that's scary, because it's much more. It's so much more yourself and your personal thing. Like, being on stage, you kind of have a shell. You have your shell. You're in your shell of the character. And, you know, you get to put on the whole thing, the makeup, the costume, you get to walk out, you get to be physical. It's like a whole thing. You have a proscenium, you have distance.
Air,
audience, they can't get in there and look in your eyes and see if you're actually telling the truth or not. So it's a crazy different experience, and it's really
And
fun.
let
I've had a
me
great
ask
time.
Everett, in terms of directing something like this, you're directing really, as we said, for a magnified medium. Were there challenges for you in terms of the notes you would give people? Like, were there some that you said, okay, do it again, bring it down, or do this or do that?
Well, I spent more time with some people, but I love Zoom. I have been, since the pandemic, I've done more work than I was
Oh,
doing
really?
before. And I love Zoom. I love figuring out what it is. I love, like, even when I'm acting on it, how to position the script so
Yeah,
that you're
it's
looking.
tough. Eye lines, right?
No, you have to forget everybody else and just work the camera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I was doing one thing and I was wondering why I was looking down. What am I looking down for? And I was
Right.
looking
When I
to the other
started this, people were like, what are you looking up at? And I'm like, I'm looking in the light. Don't look in the light, you know.
I was looking on stage, you rely on the other actor. And
Yeah.
in Zoom, you don't need the other actor. You need there's a radio
The
aspect.
camera is your actor.
And there's a radio aspect to Zoom that you play. I think is more important than you can glance down to see what the other actor is doing, but you figure that out in rehearsal so that you can just work the camera. And what is it? The camera picks up intention, so you get to do all that wonderful stuff. And again, but you either can act or you can't. And if you can, you don't have to worry about trickery. Yeah, I mean, tricks are fine and tricks are wonderful, and I love my bag of tricks. But
I do too.
when it comes down to
Doesn't work on this.
when it comes
As
down
Lena
to
and
the
I,
fact,
as Lena and I can swear to, if you have tricks, let them go, because tricks don't work here.
exactly, they don't. And but again, if you can act, you're gonna be for real, and that's what. But again, back to what we discovered in Lena's monologue was that Brian thought it was going to be easier being a woman. And he says that in the
Isn't
thing. I
that
thought
funny?
life would be more easy. And it's like, whoa. And that flew out at me in the rehearsal. It was that aspect of how do you become yourself? How do you accept yourself and enjoy your life?
Lena, how was the rehearsal process for you? Because you and I have talked, we've been working kind of in a vacuum, and now you're back in a collaborative effort with a director and with somebody else's material. Was that an adjustment, or was that good or bad or different?
No, no, it's great. It's with this, it's hard to tell, so it's nice to have someone else going, that was good, and then you can add this, and that's it. That's all you need. And it's like, okay, great. It's like trusting your instincts more than ever in this medium. You have to trust your instincts and go with your gut, because then then you can just kind of relax, and that's what this has been. It's like a relax. It's a relax into you can actually kind of dissect a script a little. You can, you don't have to push. It's not, you can let the words be discovered in the moment.
So if you trust the material and just play the material.
Trust your gut. Mm-hmm.
How much of this is playing the intent versus the word? Because I would think in Zoom, because everything, or in any sort of camera work, because everything is so magnified, and as I said, I'm looking at your eyes, the subtext still has to be there in your eyes beyond the words.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And indicating if you indicate, you get caught. And so,
oh, really? I didn't even think of that.
Indicating is, and you can spot it. And that's one of the directions mine is just don't doing it, just do it,
Yep.
Because you get caught indicating. But sometimes you like that.
Lena, I'm going to put you backstage because I want to bring Jonny out for a minute, but we'll be back to you. So don't go anywhere, Lena. One of the other people in the show is somebody who I love so much. I saw him in Stonewall, and he was amazing. He was in Penny Dreadful, and I've spent a little time with him as well. Jonny Beauchamp. Hello, Jonny.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you, sweetie?
I'm good, Billy. But before Lena just left the screen, and I just want
No,
to say,
I'm gonna bring her back. Don't worry, you're all gonna be
Lena,
together.
I have a lot to say. I caught you play Hedwig in LA a couple years ago, and I just was so into it. I went a couple times.
Hold on, I'm bringing Lena in. Okay, you and Lena, go ahead, talk to her.
I'm just if Lena's a sport, I'm an athletic supporter. It's really cool.
Wait, you're breaking up
Reaper Madness reading because I'm just that bitch, and I just think you're really cool, and you offer something really, really unique, and you're also the stuff of legend in this industry. Yeah. Oh, you don't know that? When I was coming up, I remember
she knows
talking about you and your audition for Cats when you were 17, and you had this book, and they said losing my mind, and you said the sun comes in. That's can I say?
All right, you could swear in this show. It's fine.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Can I just? I have to piggyback on that because I told Lena in an email. Lena had been on the show for an hour and a half. I had her forever on this show, and after the show, because I don't look at any interviews before I have somebody on, which is pretty clear. I watched you on Show People with Paul Wantrek, and I came up with another hour and a half worth of questions for you. And I had lunch with Paul in Provincetown, and I said, I'm so jealous that you asked Lena about cats and about this and that. He's like, but you got into this. And I'm like, apparently Lena Hall is somebody you can just spend a weekend with talking to.
Wake up, people.
So, as I said, I think Lena Hall can play pretty much everything.
You guys are so sweet. Thank you. Jonny, thank you. It's nice to see you.
All right, now I'm putting you backstage. I got to focus on Jonny for a few minutes because, there's a good chance I can have sex with Jonny, but not Lena.
More me, Jonny. I've been sitting here very good, saying nothing.
You've been patient, so patient in your hat, girl. So Jonny, did you know this material?
I didn't know the material, but I knew about Brian, and I knew about it. Yeah, I knew about it in passing and just growing up like a queer child in New York. I don't know. I think I kind of preceded myself here, but I like to listen to legends, especially it is very different now. And you guys were talking about representation and kind of not having any one to look to when you guys were younger, and then saying in the 90s it was different and different. I got to tell you, it was different, but I didn't have anyone to point anyone to me. I had to find.
Oh, really?
I had to find everything by myself. I'm an avid supporter of the library. Library has given me so much as a youth, as an adult.
Where were you? Were you in New York?
I was born in the Bronx, and I lived there until about I was 6. And then my mother's dream was to own a house, and we got this little house for foreclosure. It was this little crack house that we got, and then we fixed it up in all the beautiful mansions everywhere in our little house. And I got.
Where was that? Where was that house?
Say again.
Where was the house?
Suffern, New York.
Oh, Suffern. Okay.
And I lived there until I was about 14, and I saw Fame and the movie. And also I snuck into the city and saw Taboo, but we can get to that later. And I begged my mom to let me go to Performing Arts High School, and I had to move to the city. I wanted a chance, and I was going forward fast in upstate New York. I say upstate, it's 40 minutes an hour tops. But, anything above the Bronx, honey.
So did you identify, because you knew these club kids on some level, because you were during those formative years, you were in New York. Did you identify with the story in a way that, say, somebody else wouldn't, because you had that part of your DNA?
Even the monologue that I was asked to do, actually.
The monologue is so fabulous.
Thanks.
You got one of the good ones. I mean, they're all good, but yours I love because it shows it fit your character perfectly.
Well, I was gonna say I really identified with it because when I was younger, I I thought my only option was to transition. Like I was like, that's
Really?
yeah. I didn't know anything, and I thought I'm so feminine. I was raised by women. I gravitate towards the feminine. I lead with that. And when I was younger, I thought that was going to be my only chance. So I had this secret life inside where I was like, oh, when I do this, when I get there, when I leave, when I be myself, and I would try it out. Like I had some queer friends, and so we'd go to like the next town over, or I went and visited my friend at college at Scranton University, and I would be a woman. I would live for the weekend.
Just
I would
present yourself as a woman, right?
Yeah, and my best. I mean,
did you enjoy it?
I did,
Yeah.
but it was also really illuminating for me. Like it showed me like different. I was like the only thing I could use. I have things I stole. Honestly, I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy all the makeup. CVS. I'll send you a check. But I just from girlfriends or just whatever, and I was just I just was trying to try out to be who I really was. I wanted to be who I was on the inside. Right. And then I moved to New York, and then I started hanging out with trans people, which was like a whole different ball game. And some of them were like, well, let me know if you want me to get you started. I can hook it up for you. You know, we have these programs.
Because you are very pretty and you have been cast. Well, you are, girl. And you've been cast also in roles that have been, certainly drag queens, but the androgynous, that they play on the prettiness and the masculinity. So have you found a way for yourself to incorporate both into your life?
Absolutely.
Or is it still a work in progress?
Oh, very much still a work. But I will say that like once I started coming into my adulthood in New York City, I realized that I didn't have to, I didn't have to hit any points, or I didn't have to, I don't know how to explain it. I just basically realized that I was so many different things, and I learned I didn't have to pick one. I could lead with femininity, and I also could embrace my masculinity, which I didn't do until my early 20s. It was not something I ever approached in my life, apart from trying to pass and booking auditions, because as a femme Puerto Rican boy, you were playing hookers and that's it. And so I would definitely, I would butch it up. I'd come in with my goal, because the only parts I was really able to audition for was like gangsters. It was like gangsters or hookers. So I was like, well, I better be the best gangster and the best hooker in the game, sis. And I got cast a lot.
You did indeed. And so let me bring Brian in. Hey, Brian. So now there's something interesting that we're talking about is that Jonny's experience in the 90s, he did have these opportunities that weren't available to you in the 70s.
Exactly.
It was more the millennium, I would say, like more, because in the 90s I was really young. So don't age me, girl.
All right, fine. And by the way, anyone who saw Penny Dreadful, it would have been a shame to lose that penis.
Thank you. I've never had any qualms with it, and here lies my confusion.
Brian, what do you think Jonny played your monologue?
John, what? Say it again.
Jonny, in particular, his monologue that he got seemed to fit him to a T, because it had the sassiness, and he really made, like, had I not known, Jonny, I would have thought you wrote that this was your story, and that is great acting because it's so authentic. Brian, when you saw it, did he bring something to it beyond what you had written?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, everybody did such an amazing job, especially, I was, I don't know, I was beyond excited what Jonny did. I mean, he just took it to another place. I mean, I did a pretty good job with it myself, but I thought that he far exceeded like what I even thought of at the time, which was amazing to me. And what's really fascinating for me to hear is his story about this whole casting thing and how you have to present to be accepted in the industry. And that this is like something that has been like the bane of my existence my whole life, because I was an effeminate boy with talent, with a lot of talent, and wanted to be in the industry and wanted to act and wanted to sing and dance and do all of the things. But as an effeminate gay boy or androgynous in any way back then, you're like, girl, go and drag, get, pick. What Johnny said, I didn't have to pick.
Yeah, which is so fat. There's the difference right there.
Now in my 60s, I don't have to pick either. But then I had to pick. And it's kind
of where Tish came from.
Yeah, that's where she became my creative outlet, and supplied me with all of this wonderful material, thank God. But it was a detour, but not the tour that I ever imagined I wanted to have in my life, like touring in a play across the country.
But what I love, Johnny, and you could tell me when you got this monologue, it seemed so personal, your performance. I mean, I was telling Lena that, in this kind of venue of self-tape, you're really exposed. Well, you were telling this story as if I was standing there acting it out for me. And girl, let me tell you this. And it was so authentic. And that's also because I know you a little bit, that it seems to me that it was you just telling this story. You weren't acting. You were just telling the story. How did you feel about it?
Well, so the reason why I got involved with it was because first, Daphne Rubin Vega's like always been one of my heroes. I mean, every bit of press I do, I'm always just plug in Mama Daphne because I've loved her so long. And she knew Brian, and she had mentioned the project to me in passing when we were working on a show together. And Katie King. Then Brian reached out and said, hey, listen, I want to send you a copy of my book, which he did, and it's so good.
There it is.
To pick this up, Transfigured, giving you a shameless
right
plug.
there it is, baby.
Hey. And so I read the play as well, and the piece that I actually gravitated towards was the one that Brian asked me to look at and wanted me to do.
Oh, wow.
And it's very early on in the process, it was very clear that we were to this was a reading, right? So we're all doing it as ourselves, and and letting the magic of theater and the magic of Zoom take the audience where it was going to take us.
It's storytelling, sure.
Yeah. So apart from like really just like tapping into like my 1960s queer dialects, which I just think is like a forgotten language, and I love it so much. And anytime I can dip into that, sis, I'm there. Because that's how me and my close friends all talk to each other. Like we're just old ladies, like ciao, sis, girl.
Yeah,
girl.
It was so real. It really, like, you like this top? I snatched this. I'm like, all right, I've been there. I know that girl.
And it wasn't top. Yeah. It wasn't top.
Absolutely, darling. And so I kind of felt like, I don't know, I was freed by that. And I mean, the way I approached anything I do, I actually saw a play with Isabelle Huppert. I love Isabelle Huppert, the French actress. She's wonderful. And she did a play at Atlantic called The Mother, whatever. And she had a talk back after. Of course, I'm a nerd, so I'm like right there listening to Miss Mommy speak.
Of course.
And she said something about acting, because everyone wants to ask about acting, but it's really hard to talk about acting, I think. Because you can say like this or like that, but it's not actually lighter or darker. It's all really just, we're just trying to describe a feeling, I guess. But she said they asked her about approaching characters and whatever. And she goes, I always know the answer. I do the work. I am the character. This is it. This is what it's going to be. However, at any moment, that can change. If it's not working, you got to change. Because this is a collaboration, right? So I have to honor the director and where we're going here, but I'm not so much the person anymore that, what do you think about this character? Or do you think she's more this? No, I read the script. I'm an actor. I think I'm good at what I do.
Make your choices.
I make my choice. I'm a very decisive actor.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't take direction. And the
Yeah.
minute if it's not working, then it's got to go out the window, because it's about what works.
Well, that brings up Everett. Let me bring Everett in here. Everett, do you like an actor that comes in with a real clear choice and a bold choice, whether it's right or wrong?
Yeah, well, I like. There's two kinds of actors. There's the ones that are kind of green that you've got to spoon feed, and then there are the people that got ideas, and all it is you mold, you discuss the ideas, and you play, and that's what Jonny was, and Lena was. Everyone in this is that. Everyone in this needed my help only as a guide, not as a...
And staging. I mean, we had talked on the phone, and you mapped out very specific moments for me that you were like, okay, you got to hit this. You got to do this slow. I'd like a gesture here. And so I took those notes very seriously, because, I'm just fitting into this massive thing together, right? So there's things that we're going to be adding and editing and whatnot.
Well, that's true. This is a tapestry. So yeah,
exactly. But once when it's in good hands,
the tapestry, though, I kind of just like, whether big part, small part, and I play big part, small parts all the time. I never have like one. I'm not someone who just always does like the male lead. That's not my bag. I come in and out all the time. So everything is a bit more tapestry for me. Is how do I fit? Because ultimately, it's the story, right? We want to tell the story as best we can. That's the point. So however I can, that's what I do. Mm-hmm.
Let me bring Lena in, because I know she's going to have to run in a minute. Lena, I'm bringing you back. Hold on. Let me put you up there. Oh, no, you know what? I'm got my actors down there. So, Lena, let me ask you, when you're working on something like this that is so collaborative and you are all playing different aspects of the same character, do you have to think to yourself, how is somebody else going to approach it? Or do you approach it the way you think you should approach that aspect?
No, I think you can approach it on your own, if we were all doing it in a play together and it had to make sense that way, then yes. But then the rehearsal process would be totally different. We'd all be in rooms together. We would start to sync up. You know what I mean? All our menstrual cycles would sync up. When you're in the room with each other for a month, rehearsing something, you become a family, you become a unit, and so it's different. But this way, because we're all separate, and because of the way this is filmed, even though we are telling the story of one person, I feel like we have so many different sides of ourselves that I can't even imagine having to pick one person to play me. You know what I mean? Because I'd be like, well, I mean, they're that part of me, but then there's that part of me, and then there's this part of me, So we're all very much, we're rainbows. There's so many facets of us. So I think it's really interesting to have one person played by multiple different people who didn't actually talk to each other, because that way you get a truly unique kind of window into this one person from all these different voices. I don't think, and this is my own personal opinion, but I don't think in a stage show, having the same character played by 3 different people works great, because the audience is then has a harder time getting on board with each one as it changes, because you have to reset, and each person playing that same person has to get the audience on board with them immediately in order for the audience, you know what I mean? But in a situation like this, I think it is a completely different thing. Each thing is its own experience.
Well, I agree with you, because it's the way it's broken up, the audience is already, it's like the character is everyone, right? So everyone can identify. But to your point, a lot of shows, a lot of autobiographical rock and roll shows have been really imploring. You make me nervous, girl. Sorry. But and sometimes it's, you know, it's tough. And I think to your point, exactly, like, because, you know, not only does the audience have to get on board with all these three interpretations of said person that we already think we have an idea of who they are because we love them, that's what we want to take to the show. It's trickier, but I relished this experience because it's very clear that we're all playing one person, and it's very clear that we are all coming from a very different place to play this person. And I think the magic of theater does lend itself to Zoom in that you have to do we're on Zoom, the audience is on your side. Nobody goes to see something except some of the critics who want to be like, this was shit. No, we want to love you. And that's what I tell when I coach kids. I'm like, girl, they want to love you, so just don't fuck it up.
Yeah, I tell people that when they go into auditions, and they, you know, I always say to them, you know, every casting director that's seeing you wants you to be great. They really do, because it makes their life so much easier. But you go in thinking they're and they are judging you, but they really hope you're good. Brian, let me ask you, seeing different people play the same character, do you feel that do you think that it really is important that they're all the same character, or could they all be their own person?
I think that, going back to my original idea about, you know, make the various differences culturally, different identities, I think that can work on stage if it's done in a certain way. I think I think that the same, I thought of the Cher show when Lena mentioned it.
Oh, right. We had three shares.
She's naming names.
That show, I loved it, but I found that really disturbing.
I know. I see you, girl.
It took me out of it.
Right.
Yes,
because it is a theatrical conceit, and either it works or it doesn't.
It was a choice, and it was, you know, it was a concept, and, you know, they tried to make it work. But I think with, like, seeing different people, I mean, it's kind of weird for me to even, like, think of it now, but seeing different people bring, like, I think Jonny said, or you said, the different, I forgot who said it, but the different aspects of my personality that I couldn't bring in each and every single stage monologue was really fascinating, because you can't get one person to be all of those many different things. And I think that was the thing that I saw back in 2015 that was really powerful and impactful for the audience at that time.
Does it matter in this material that these are all aspects of the same person? Because when I look at Lena, when I look at Jonny, Margaret Cho, Daphne, they could be 4 different people and still be as powerful. Does it matter?
I mean, there's a big
any of you.
Here. I think that, like, it's yes and no, because we could be, but we're not. We are all representing the
same person
and this person's journey. And with the magic of theater and the magic of Zoom, you know, this is all, we're just using tools here to tell a story. These are just, that's what it is. They're rocks or they're computers, but these are just tools to tell the story. And the story is that of, you know, that's what we're doing here. I think I didn't mean to step all over you, Mama Brian, but
no. Brian, what did you think? Do you think that, like, these work as individual characters as well as aspects of the same character?
Absolutely. I think it could be separate. It could be individual. Like, the way I wrote them, I always thought of them as individual little stories.
Oh, you did?
With a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I always had this idea that, you know, I never imagined until I had that idea in 2015 that it could be other people. But I think it could work as a collection of stories, different people.
Everett, how do you feel about that in terms of looking at it as different aspects of the same person versus different characters themselves?
Well, and it has worked both ways. It was a hit when
Yeah.
Brian did it on his own, and then Brian said it was a hit when he did it with a group of other people. So I think the audience will buy what you sell, especially if you've got this group. If you've got fabulous people,
Yeah,
like Lena
that's
and
true.
Jonny,
You got great
and
actors.
people are going to buy it. So
And-
if you got Joe Schmidlap and he's fucking up, no one's going to buy it, no matter what it is, and we don't have that. So I think it can.
Well,
work
thank
both ways.
God Joe Schmidlap wasn't available.
Yeah, I hate her.
Lena, I know you got to go. I just want to thank you for doing the show. I really appreciate that you're always there when I need you.
Aw, of course. Love you guys so much. It was
Thanks,
fun.
Thanks,
Lena.
Lena. We'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Guys, so now let me just finish up with you. So I think, you know, what I loved about Jonny's performance in particular is the ethnicity. That I'm curious, Brian, did you ever think to yourself that it would really play so well as like a Latin Spitfire? Because really you brought it to it.
Well, Tish was a little bit of a Latin Spitfire. No, I grew up in urban I grew up in South Providence, and I grew up with, you know, many Latin men and women, trans women. You know, I had a really great, diverse culture that I came up in the 70s and 80s. And you know, those were my teachers and my mentors, many of them. And you know, so the language is just sort of indicative of that time period. And you know, I think that we have, you know, we want to like put things in neat little boxes and say that this should be for this person and this should be for that person. And I'm like so against that. Like, I don't think of color, or, you know, I don't think of things that way myself. But I think that what's so great about what everybody's bringing is a different, you know, humanity. It's the humanity that I'm most interested in, whether it's, you know, African American or Latin or Asian or Muslim or, you know, Indian or whatever. I mean, I think that's what's really important. We're so hung up on this stuff. This is kind of like what drives me nuts. I don't want to get into the whole political.
No, it sounds like also that's part of your story is what you had to fight because people were hung up with categorizing people.
Yeah. So
and in a way, seeing that the same person is played by how many actors do you have in this total?
Oh God, what is it?
8.
Is it 8?
8. Okay.
8.
So you have 8 different actors playing the same different aspects of the same person, which also tells me that that person could play it 8 different ways at the very least.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all of these people could do the whole thing.
Yeah. Jonny,
You know,
I look at Jonny and I have a screenplay that I wrote based on this material.
Jonny, you're getting work out of
And
this.
I look at if I was going to had any say in the casting, I don't know if I ever would, but if I had say in the casting, I would want someone like Jonny to play the whole, you know, enchilada. I mean, the whole role. I mean, but you know, and you know, so. In film, it's different, but on the stage, you get to take so many different liberties that you don't get. You're not stuck in the medium of a camera with one person, you know.
Right.
And that's the wonderful thing about live theater, that you are able to experiment. You're able to try different things, you know. As radical as it might seem to some people, you know, a woman playing a trans woman, or a drag queen playing a woman, or, you know, a gay man playing, you know, however, you that's the great thing about theater.
the
It is.
freedom of it. Jonny, Jonny, have you seen any of the other tapes yet?
No, and I can't.
Okay, so I've got a
I'm
little bit of
dying.
it.
Where do you
Because
see Daphne? Where do you see
oh my God, with the duct tape.
when
Oh.
she pulled out the duct tape?
Brian told me about it, and
Hysterical.
I'm like,
I nearly died when
The fact that she cut it with her teeth. Oh.
she pulled.
they don't make them
I
no better.
said,
I'm telling you.
she went there. She
Oh.
so went there with the
She
duct.
always goes there, and
It
that's
was-
why
God.
she's
Again,
consummate.
fearless. Oh, and I should say, since
Heartbreak.
we've gotten a message, we're getting some messages. If you have any questions, text us now. Our producer Adam Weinstock said, and a fabulous producer. Yes, Adam, you're a fabulous producer.
Yes.
And I should also mention, I've got it here, that if people want to watch it, it's org. Hold on. Monica, it's org. O-R-G. So, okay. But it's Emerging Artist Theater. Okay, up there. emergingartisttheater.org. So that, and when is it premiering?
Monday.
And you can
Great.
buy tickets. There are
Monday
three
the 9th.
packages. You can buy a package for all three. There's three different plays that are to be done virtually, and you can buy all three viewings.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
What are the other plays? Do you know?
Ooh, one's about. I know one I'm interested in is one about Doris Day that was Paul Adams.
Jonny, you could play Doris Day.
Doris
I
Day.
love to.
I would love to see that.
Hey, Sarah, Sarah.
Oh my God, I love Jonny. What do you have coming up? Do you have anything coming up that you've been working on?
No.
Okay. How are you spending the pandemic?
Oof. So at first I started off like really strong. You know, I was like, okay, you know, this is time. We're gonna reset. I went like the day before. It was my birthday actually, March 15th. Everything was locked down. I was freaking out. So I was like, I'm running to the bookstore, and I got a bunch of books because I was like, I need to read or whatever. And then I'm like a huge opera buff, so I was really.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
you and me both.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I have a whole other life I will talk about later.
We got to talk about this.
We will.
I'm serious because, anyways. But so the Mets live streams every day were like really entertaining for me, and I was like,
yeah,
I'm just gonna like kill time. Like, when are you gonna watch the whole Wagner Ring cycle in 4 days? You know, it's like I ain't got enough
1 week.
time. So I actually saw that in person. And I put my last rent check on it, and it was like a really crazy moment. But luckily, the show got picked up, so I actually had a job, and everything was okay. But the Met had my rent check.
Did you have anything that you were working on when this started? Like, did the pandemic really cancel some job you had coming up?
Yes. It was looking as if the show I was on the CW, Katie Keene was. We had already bought 13 more episodes for a second season. They had kept the rental space in the filming studios on the sets and stuff. So we really thought we may go for a second season. Everyone was really positive about it, and unfortunately, they couldn't really make it happen under the parameters of what was going on and stuff. And so we definitely suffered for that. And my heart goes out because it was just such a wonderful group of people. At the end of the day, I just cherished that show. I loved that gig. I loved everybody I got to work with. It's really special because, you know, show business is like any other job, guys. Like, you know, there's always going to be someone that, you know, you don't really like, or it's not very nice. Or whatever. You know, it's not all community theater and harmony. But every once in a while, you get a gig where, like, there is this synergy and everybody really likes everybody.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So it's a different, it's different tit for tat. And the work becomes different because we're all kind of breathing together. Lena was talking about on stage, when you're a cast together and you breathe together and you feel each other for a couple, you know, there's a synergy that happens. And when that gets to happen on film or on TV, it's explosive. So I feel like I got really lucky with Katie Keene.
Cool.
And just looking forward to the next gig, folks.
Everett, were you working on anything when this started?
I had just finished a play,
Oh.
and I at the 13th Street Theater, and then Joe Bautista directed it, and then he directed this other thing that we went to see, and the next night everything closed down. So it was the last thing I got to see. It was a fabulous play. It was.
But Everett's directing a play for Red Bull.
Yeah, I've done.
Oh, you
work.
are?
Yeah.
I've done more work in this pandemic.
Yeah, me too. I've been so busy.
When
I think that also, Brian, for writers, I think this, it's a good time because you can still write, but staying focused and really not getting distracted by all the ups and downs can be difficult. Have you found that you are being productive during this time, or has it been hard for you?
I try to stay productive. I have, I have kind of a schizophrenic life. I have this
As do I.
crazy creative life. I'm in a graduate program at Hunter College.
Oh, wow.
I have a film in the can that's actually premiering this weekend in Texas.
Good for you.
It's a documentary based on this material and the book. It's directed by Karen Bernstein. It's going to be at the Lost River Film Festival.
Oh, how great.
On Saturday night at the in Lockhart, Texas. And then we're going to do a screening at a drive-in the next day and the next night on Sunday. And that's something that we were in the middle of when the pandemic struck. We were at we were supposed to be at South by Southwest in March.
And that got canceled at the last minute.
Everything got canceled. And then we streamed on Amazon for a couple of minutes, and everything dried up. We're still, trying to find a distributor. And so, so I've always got to try to keep busy with something creative, whether it's reading a script or reading a play. There's this great group that we meet with on Wednesday nights with Everett, the Salon of Actors. And we bring all of this fun stuff. Like Everett and I do we did a great scene from Virginia Woolf.
Oh, wow. That would be fabulous.
It was George. And
we should mention, because we haven't mentioned it, but Everett is a great actor.
Yes.
Great actor. And I've seen you, Everett, so many times on stage. And I love that you're directing, but I don't want to give short shrift to the fact that you are I think the best directors actually come from actors. I think if you understand a director, if you understand actors, you can be a great director. Just like Brian was saying, having lived as a woman made him a better man.
Well, thank you. No, I prefer directing because you don't have to learn lines, but that's
yeah. The older we get, learning lines can be tough.
But no, thank you. I like doing it.
Oh, my friend Kenny Morse, Jonny, who met us. Jonny and I met through Richard J. Alexander at the Dreamgirls reunion. And I was with my friend Kenny Morse, who said, I still love Jonny. Well, there you go.
Hi, Kenny.
Oh, there you go. See, you just made his day. He probably just came all over his computer. All right. Anyway. I just want to remind people one last time that the benefit is Monday night, emergingartiststheater.org. Definitely watch it. Tell people who else is in it. I have a list here, but you want to say who they are, Everett?
Oh, I don't have my list if I don't want to forget.
Okay. Jonny, Margaret Cho,
Daphne Rubin Vega,
Peppermint, Lena Hall,
Jacob Tobias,
Lena Hall,
Yahuwah Yamasaki,
Jacob Tobias.
Oh, Jacob is so good.
Yeah,
I don't want to keep singling people out.
Jacob, it's
yeah.
No, when you talk about an all-star cast,
yeah,
and then you see them all in action, and it's like I'm a mother with 9 kids, and they're all excellent.
Yeah, but there's always one Locks in the group.
No, not this group. John.
It's me.
All right,
out there, Billy. It's me. Stop.
That's me. I'm the only
Shut up! It is not you.
I'm the only one. Only me. Everyone else is good.
Guys, this has been so much fun. You all have such great stories, and I really hope I learned so much, Brian. Can I just tell you that I have been a fan of yours? I've known who you were for so many years. I saw Tish perform in the day, and to
I
sit
met
in,
you at the Limelight.
yeah, I believe we did. We
Yeah.
may have also danced at Pyramid once. I'm not quite sure, but it just seeing all of these, I've been very fortunate that again, Adam. Thank you, Adam, our producer, because him giving me the chance to watch all of these. I really watched each one individually and had to take some time between them because I found them so compelling and emotional. And I think really people will learn an awful lot if they watch this. So again, emergingartisttheater.org, Monday night. Jonny, you know how I feel about you. You and I will talk afterwards, but I love you. Everett and Brian, such fans. Thank you for doing the show.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Bill.
best wishes to all of you. If you stick around, I'll talk to you after the show. But thank you for joining us. I'm going to say goodbye, just in no particular order. Everett, goodbye. I have to do this individually. Jonny, bye, sweetheart. And Brian, God bless you. God, now I'm going to go and get the book. I never read the book.
I'll send you a copy.
All right. We'll talk. Thank you for doing the show and best wishes for everything.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you for watching Billy Masters Live. On Tuesday, I believe we're having Ed Asner. I'm not sure how it's working out schedule-wise. I don't have everything in front of me, but there's all sorts of people coming up. Eric Roberts, Melissa Manchester. Look, it's a cavalcade of stars here on Billy Masters Live. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend. By next week, hopefully we'll have a president. And this has been Billy Masters Live. And don't forget, I say it all the time, but I mean it. If we're here, we're live. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye-bye.